Ooh, baby, do we have a loaded Tuesday episode on tap of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, breaking all of the top news down from across the NHL, McDavid, the Oilers, Linus Ullmark, and the Boston Bruins, and we're breaking down one of the biggest trades in our listener league so far. Of course, big time bets. Thank you for joining us. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to your daily source for fantasy hockey news and degenerate gambling breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I'm joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden, and on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Thankfully, today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Here we go, my friends. Steele, I'm back. Thanks for holding me down. Little anniversary siesta here over the weekend. But most importantly, my goodness, there's a lot going on in the NHL. There's a lot going on in our Fantasy Hockey Listener League. Shout out to everyone out there who's holding us down in those leagues. I think I've had a little bit of a bounce back this week, Steele, so things are on the come up. We're going to break down one of the biggest trades we've seen so far in our league. DeBrincat for Roope Hintz. We'll talk about it. We also have to talk about Linus Ullmark already standing on his head. Steele, these Boston Bruins already proving us wrong once again. What is his fantasy value? And most importantly, perhaps, because everyone out there listening wants to know what's going on with Connor McDavid, and I'm going to turn it right over to you, Steele. 1 to 2 weeks with an upper body injury. It looked like he was holding his hip area, his back area. This isn't good news for Edmonton because the sky is already falling, but fantasy GMs are going to need to get creative. However, hit me with your take on this entire Edmonton situation that you've seen so far.
Yeah, that's the big news. We're only 5 games into the NHL season and the sky is falling in Edmonton right now. And there's already been talks about what's going to be going on with Jay Woodcroft if he cannot turn the ship around and get them headed in the right direction. Look, a lot of people and almost all hockey fans were very high on the Edmonton Oilers coming into this season, being one of the top teams coming out of the West, potentially getting into the Stanley Cup for the first time in a very long time for that organization. And this has just been one of the worst starts to a season that we possibly could have expected from the Edmonton Oilers. 1-3-1 on the season. 24th in goals for, 25th in goals against. They're getting no offensive production, which is very shocking to see with the caliber of players they have on their roster right now. You're getting nothing out of the guys that they've brought in Connor Brown this season so far. Matthias Ekholm has looked terrible on the blue line. Evander Kane hasn't been playing a ton of minutes, but he also hasn't been producing much offensively or getting into the game quickly for the Oilers as well. So it's already been a very bad, very poor start for the Oilers, and losing Connor McDavid for the next 1 to 2 weeks is going to have a tremendous effect on their game. Leon Draisaitl's really going to have to take over for them. Zach Hyman's going to do more battling than he's ever done over this next couple of weeks as well. And personally, this affects me as well, because this is the first time that I have ever had the first overall pick. First time I've ever drafted Connor McDavid. And of course, he gets injured, which he typically hasn't over the last couple of seasons, or the last, pretty much his entire NHL career, if you take away his rookie season. So for me personally, it's really affecting my fantasy team right now. It's not going well. I'm still doing well in the competitive league. I had a pretty solid week in week 2, but nonetheless, it's very strange to see Connor McDavid not at the top of the NHL leaderboard right now. Instead, you're seeing Alex DeBrincat, who's been playing phenomenally, and we're going to talk about him later in this episode.
Nice little segue there. That kid's been on fire. 2 goals, 6 assists for Connor McDavid, 8 points in 5 games, 6 PIMs, 13 shots on net. For most players, 8 points in 5 games would be a pretty solid start. Yeah, you'd like to see him probably shooting that puck a lot more, something that he got very comfortable doing last year. 2 great results. But otherwise, it's pretty solid. It's just the expectations are obviously at the most elite level they could possibly be. But this is an interesting situation here, Steele. the number one thing for me, aside from Connor McDavid, aside from this team making a whole bunch of bad mistakes, just not really looking like they have it together. And to me, that falls on the coach as well, getting these guys ready to go. Sloppy breakouts, bad starts to games, and really, really bad finishes. Here's a little ditty for you. They haven't scored a goal in the third period yet this season, Steele. No goals scored in the third period, and then you're blowing games against the Winnipeg Jets and only scoring 2 goals. These are really demoralizing ways to lose. Add that in with the injury, add that in with the sloppy play. And I know it's early, and we're not writing off the Edmonton Oilers yet at 1-3-1. We're not even close. But they better wake up in a hurry. And if Connor McDavid ends up missing the 2 weeks instead of the 1, and this is 5 or 6 games and not 1 or 2, 5 or 6 games, if those go ugly, Steele, this will catch up to them at the end of the season.
Of course it will. And we've seen this happen in the past where teams get off to a very poor start and they can't recover in time come playoffs or even come March when the trade deadline is around. You know, that you see these teams missing out of the postseason by just a few points. We saw it last year for a couple of teams as well. And again, when you talk about probably the 2 best players in the NHL right now, I know there's up for debate when you can bring Nathan McKinnon or Austin Matthews the way that he's playing right now with Leon Draisaitl. But Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have been the best 2 players of the last 4 seasons. And again, if they can't right the ship, if they can't get going in the right direction, and Jay Woodcroft can't get this team going, who knows what it will look like in a couple of months. Maybe they try to find a new head coach because, again, I've already been hearing that around on social media if they don't correct the ship right now. So it's going to be tough without Connor McDavid, but they have the players to back him up in his absence. They have the players, but right now, besides Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman, no one's producing. They need both of their goaltenders to be a lot better.
Darnell Nurse has been pretty disappointing as well overall, not just fantasy, but on the ice. The Edmonton Oilers also are second in the NHL in turnovers, and usually this team is good enough to outscore their mistakes. And right now, the offense isn't clicking, and they're not good enough to make up for their mistakes on the other end of the ice with that offense and the turnovers. You need to get better with the turnovers. Second in the NHL in turnovers, and you're not scoring. That's going to catch up to you quick. I know overall their penalty kill has been pretty shabby as well. Power play, I think they're 5th in the league, 6th in the league, still getting it done. It's the all-around support Steele. These 2 guys in Draisaitl and McDavid, it's been proven that they can't get it done on their own over the last couple of seasons. Now, a little bit of a slow start for McDavid, an injury, the goalies, here we go. But that's what is hockey, baby. That's what we're going to continue to break down on this show every single day. And yeah, we're not writing them off yet, Steele, but we got our finger on the pulse here because we might having to be starting to jump ship on some of these more peripheral guys like the Connor Browns of the world that we were invested in fantasy-wise. If it doesn't pan out, people, sooner than later, over the next couple of weeks, make sure you're tuning in for Waiver Wire Monday episodes. By the way, fire Waiver Wire Monday episode from Steele yesterday. Make sure you check that out. Right around the break, we're going to be talking about Linus Ullmark, the fantasy value, the Boston Bruins, DeBrincat and Hintz, and of course, a quick little big-time betting segment for one of the busiest nights we've ever seen in 16 games on the NHL board. But today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A player on your favorite team scores a hattie. Your favorite team lifts the cup. You want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for this season, but you got to have a chance at winning. You're going to need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports. Of course, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Steele and I are in the group chat. We're loving that functionality. The Sleeper app is amazing. All of our friends are jumping in for that 100 times your money payout with studs like McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, and Makar. All you need to do is pick more or less on stats for these stars. Choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You know it's 100 times payout on Sleeper, so start paying attention and get your picks so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. And thank you so much. Continue to hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. And again, thank you just so much. We could not be doing this without all of you out there tuning in to this podcast. So thank you so much. We got to talk about Linus Ullmark and what the Boston Bruins are doing right now. Look at us make foolish yet again for the second straight season. But I have to bring this up because earlier in the season, I traded for Linus Ullmark. I traded Tyler Toffoli. Traded Tyler Toffoli for Linus Ullmark, and so far I've been very, very happy with what he's been doing. Again, only 3 games under the belt, but in those 3 games, he has not lost. He has a 1 goal against average and a .962 save percentage. He's getting it done on all cylinders right now. And Flip, I'm gonna have to say this. I'm gonna have to throw this out there.
Do it.
Linus Ullmark may be the best, or at least one of the best goaltenders in the NHL right now. And to me, it might be a little bit of a bold take for a lot of people out there. But when you look at his track record over not just last season, but pretty much his entire NHL career, even when he was with Buffalo before coming to Boston 3 seasons ago, the track record speaks for itself. His worst season was a .905 save percentage, a .905 save percentage and a .311 goals against average. That was his worst season in 2018, 2019. But other than that, he has never been below a .915 save percentage. And obviously his resume speaks for itself over the last 4 years. .917 save percentage, .917 save percentage, and then an incredible .938 save percentage with 40 wins last year in that historic Boston Bruins regular season. So I got to give a shout out to Linus Ullmark and the Bruins right now. It pains me to say it, but he's playing out of his mind right now.
I believe also, aside from Linus Ullmark, this is the hottest start that the Boston Bruins have had since something like 1918, because last year they had a loss in their first few games. So they're off to an undefeated start for the first time in about 100 years on the backs of what was a historically good performance last year. And you and I once again with egg on our face and eating a whole bunch of our hat. Linus Ullmark, Jennings Trophy Award winner, Vezina Trophy Award winner, All-Star last year, and how about finished in 10th in Hart voting? Right now, after this start, after the year he had, he is the best goalie on the planet, I would say, Steele. The numbers back him up. Sure, we can have the conversation about Shesterkin, Sorokin. We're not writing off Vasilevsky. All of these guys now have cemented themselves into that top tier of goaltender. We're going to throw Hellebuck in that mix too, probably, from a fantasy perspective. But my, oh my, Steele, you were a bit cheesed at missing out on Stuart Skinner. You had to go out there and get Linus Ullmark, and now look at how things are going for you. So that's actually right there kind of indicative of how the start of fantasy hockey and the NHL seasons can go. It can get off the rails for you, but you can also think you're in a bad spot and bounce back just how you did. But it's early. The Detroit Red Wings have looked very good. The Ottawa Senators, when they're on their game, are going to be very good offensively. They'll have to figure out the back end. But that Metro Division, Steele, is going to start to get busy. It's going to start to be stacked up. I'm not even ready to say how the first – you and I were feeling pretty good about the top 3 teams in the Metro Division. They might still shake out that way. But so far, it's a little bit up and down, and I think a lot of that has to do with this crazy hot start that I don't think we saw coming from the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is a little bit of a side note, but I should have stuck with my guns when I was deciding to put the Washington Capitals last in the Metropolitan. They have looked absolutely brutal so far. Again,
we were right on that one, at least. We were right on that one.
We had them second last, but surprising, the Philadelphia Flyers are up there. They've had a pretty hot start to the season as well. But again, the Boston Bruins just coming out full steam ahead and just having no regards for who's in their path. They're not even scoring a lot of goals right now. I've been nervous about what their bottom 6 forward group has looked like, but nonetheless, their defensive play, in front of Linus Ullmark has helped him with his statistics. Obviously, he's still a phenomenal goaltender. As my bold statement would say, I think he's the best goaltender on the planet right now. But the defensive play from the Boston Bruins and Jim Montgomery and what he's doing in the defensive zone is helping out a lot. They got to get their offensive going. Jake DeBrusk has looked very sloppy. We talked about him a couple of episodes ago, but nonetheless, they're getting it done and they're winning games.
And that's just it. That was the point I was going to make. Pasternak, 8 points. Marchand, 7 points. And then it drops off, right? I know Van Riemsdyk has 3 goals. This Poitras kid is looking pretty good already.
2 goals last night.
2 goals last night. But here's the thing. if they start to fade those couple of guys just a little bit, Pasternak struggles a bit, Marchand struggles a bit, then the pressure starts to fall on the young guns, on the James Van Riemsdykes, and then the pressure falls on the back end. So it's all honky-dory right now. Everything's looking pretty, but things can change in a hurry. Just like our focus for this segment, headed over to our listener league here, Steele. A juicy little trade featuring, by the way, and this is probably going to take up a good portion of this conversation, a player in Alex DeBrincat who leads the league in goals and leads the league in points with 8 and 12, going for a guy in Roope Hintz, who now actually, I believe, Steele, and that is the trade, DeBrincat for Hintz. Over the last couple of seasons, Roope Hintz has started off quite slowly.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I want to dive into, is that at first take, this obviously looks like, again, 3 games for Roope Hintz, 6 games for Alex DeBrincat. But Roope Hintz still has 3 points, 2 goals, 1 assist to start the year. He's got 9 shots on net. He's getting those peripherals in those 3 games as well. Dallas has struggled a little bit to score goals to start the season. Unlike the Detroit Red Wings, who have been in some lopsided games so far. But Alex DeBrincat, he just scored a hat trick the other day in that win the other night. Dylan Larkin's looking absolutely solid right now.
Their chemistry is looking unreal.
I've already sent out a couple of tweets. Alex DeBrincat made the smart and right decision to go to Detroit instead of staying in Ottawa. He was very disappointed in his playing time, not playing on the first line with Ottawa, and look what's going on in Detroit right now. So at first glance, this obviously looks like a win. I have it up here. The trade is between the Ice Titans and Hardly Golden Boys. I believe the Ice Titans are getting Alex DeBrincat. My phone's charging right now, so I don't have the actual photo of it. Nonetheless, at first glance, it looks like whoever's receiving Alex DeBrincat is going to be winning this trade because of how fire and how hot he is right now. But then you go in and you're like, okay, maybe he's taken a little bit of a step back. I've gotten, we're only 2 weeks in, but I've gotten enough out of Alex DeBrincat. I really like Roope Hintz and what he's done in Dallas the last few seasons, back-to-back 70-plus points. He's going to continue playing with Pavelski and Robertson. Do you think Roope Hintz finishes with more points? Alex DeBrincat finishes with more points. So I think that's what he was trying to calibrate right now. Take a step back, get a little bit of perspective on what might happen in the future for these two players. And I think he really likes Roope Hintz. So if he's giving up Alex DeBrincat, so be it. But he's red hot right now.
I'm gonna say this. At first glance, you've covered this angle very nicely, and this is it. This is someone with Alex DeBrincat selling very high.
Yeah.
Right? They're selling him off for an elite piece in Roope Hintz. I know DeBrincat had a 76-point year in 2019. I know he had a 78-point year a couple of seasons ago. Both of those, he was playing with Patrick Kane, and that was one of the big things that everyone talked about. Can this kid get it done without Patrick Kane next to him? And now I think it's clear, and I know last year he had 66 points. He was a little bit up and down that Ottawa lineup. He can play with elite players. So I think we're being proven that he can get it done anywhere he goes. But Roope Hintz has been one of our favorite players, Steele. I think at least one of my favorite players. He got it done in all angles. What was it? He scored a power play goal, a shorthanded goal, and an even strength goal, hat trick last playoffs.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
Was unreal.
That doesn't happen very often, and I'm not trying to take anything away from DeBrincat because clearly the GM who acquired him right now, I would say I'm giving the edge slightly. Long term, though, that's the other GM's angle here, and I actually think this is a very even trade.
Yeah.
Because you have two very good pieces. It's just tough, and this is where some GMs out there are going to have a lot of backbone to go after a guy like Hintz and sell off DeBrincat right now. Number one, credit due to you because you are playing the long game here. It might burn you right now over the next couple of weeks while the Dallas Stars are struggling on the power play, Steele. So Roope Hintz, I know 2 goals, 1 assist. I know he's been solid to start the year, but the last season he started off slow, and I believe the year before he started off slow as well. So let's say he gets a couple of games with maybe a point or no points, and DeBrincat keeps blowing the doors off of the Atlantic. Over the next couple of weeks, you're going to be a bit sour that you let go of DeBrincat. Overall, I like the trade. I think it's very fair. It's bold, though, Steele. It's very bold as well.
I love to see that we're getting some fiery trades in the fantasy league as well. So shout out to the Ice Titans and Hardly Golden Boys out there for this phenomenal trade. I'm just looking at the peripheral stats as well. And DeBrincat's got him on the peripherals as well. Over 260 plus shots the last two seasons, 109, over 100 plus hits the last two seasons as well, compared to Roope Hintz, who's had less than 50 the last two seasons. Or last season, he had 82 the year before that. But nonetheless, the peripherals are in Alex DeBrincat's favor as well. So unless, again, just 2 weeks into the season, but unless the Dallas Stars and their offensive group can kind of get going with that top line, which a lot of their production comes from that top line of Hintz, Robertson, and Pavelski, it looks like it's going to be in the favor of Alex DeBrincat right now. We do have to get to big time bets. We've got a full board for Tuesday night. All 32 teams are in action. We've got big time bets locked and loaded ready for you. But this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, which we both suggest you do, there is no better time to get into the action than right now. The app is secure and super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and of course, our favorite on this podcast, the same game parlays. You know, we're locking in those same game parlays for both the NFL and the NHL. We're dropping some bets very soon for Tuesday night 32 game board. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season right. FanDuel.com/lockedon, official partner of the NFL. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support. Continue leaving the comments on the YouTube channel. We get back to you as soon as possible. We love the conversations we've been having with all of you out there, and continue DMing us on Twitter as well. If you have any questions or just want some advice, Flip and I will get back to you as soon as we see the message, which is pretty much same day delivery on here. We're trying out there, but same day delivery on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Big time bets though. That's where the money is made. Flip's been making a lot of money to start off this season with big time bets. He's trying. You're doing good. So I'll throw it over to you.
All right.
You've got the reins. What's your first pick in this big 32 game board tonight?
Yeah, Saturday was a little bit rough for me. I didn't have any picks out Monday, but we're looking to bounce back because overall the season has been pretty decent. So I appreciate you shouting me out. Now, Maple Leafs. You know I'm going to this game, Steele, because
figured
I couldn't help but feel watching that game on Saturday night against the Tampa Bay Lightning, given that they had big win. First of all, we're not going to get down that rabbit hole too far, other than that felt like a tipping point situation early in this year for this club.
For Joseph Wall, too.
Samsonov did not look good, and now I moved up in my draft in the keeper realm, Steele, to get Joseph Wall. And now he's going to get his start. He's going to get the run out now, at least over the next couple of games. You can't help but feel he's earned it. So let's see what the kid can do with the opportunity. I believe he will be in the cage against a 1-2-1 Washington Capitals team that looks to me, just by my eyes, to be perhaps one of the slowest teams out there. A lot of these guys in the top 6 have lost a step. Alex Ovechkin is struggling. The Leafs have points in 7 of their last 10 games against Washington. And for some reason, they run the Metro right now, 11-2 in their last 13 games against Metro Division opponents. So give me the Toronto Maple Leafs on the money line on the road here, minus 160. That's my first bet of the night, Steele.
Absolutely love it. I think they're going to take the win as well. You know, I might even throw in Alex Ovechkin anytime goal because he does well against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I'll take the Leafs on the money line. That's not one of my picks, but it's going to be a part of my parlay Tuesday night. First pick of the night. I've got I've got 4 actually, but one of them is just an honorable mention. First pick of the night. I'm going to start with the Canucks on the money line at plus 100 against the Nashville Predators. It's been pretty even the last 10 games that they played again. I believe it's 5-5 between the two of them. I really like the Canucks right now and how they've looked to start off the season. A couple, they had a bad loss the other day, I believe, or they had a big win against the Florida Panthers just a couple of days ago. But nonetheless, they're on the road in Nashville. I like the odds at plus 100. I like Elias Pettersson. Brock Besser's looked great, and so does Thatcher Demko, fully healthy and ready to go. So Canucks money line, even Casey DeSmith backing him up has been a tremendous pickup for the Vancouver Canucks. But that's my first pick, Canucks money line plus 100.
I like it. And the Vancouver Canucks have seemingly been involved with a lot of high-scoring games, the number going over the total in 4 of their last 6 games. And how about this little stat, Steele? 6 of the last 7 trips of Vancouver to Nashville have also gone over the number. So I
Yeah.
would lean Vancouver and I would lean the over here. Really liking that number, but I'm liking your pick there. Another one that I'm really liking is another total. And actually, my lock of the night comes from this game as well. The New Jersey Devils play the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal is on the second night of a back-to-back here, and New Jersey is coming in fresh. They're a little bit banged up, though, Steele. I saw Eric Holla is dealing with a day-to-day upper body injury, and so is Nico Hischier. So those are 2 key forwards for this group, but I still like the over. The New Jersey Devils, every single game this season, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, 5-4, all of them going over the total. And then dig into these head-to-head numbers. 6 of the last 9 games between these two, guess what? Over the number. So give me over 6.5 at -104. The Montreal Canadiens allow a ton of goals. New Jersey Devils score a ton. This isn't rocket science. Let's hammer the over.
Yeah, I was leaning towards that as well, but again, I kind of backed away from it because of the injuries to Nico Hischier and Eric Holla.
Fair,
But I
fair.
also like the over. I'm just gonna stay away from that one though.
Mm,
I'm gonna mention my honorable mention right now. It's
Sure.
gonna be the Golden Knights puck line plus 102 against the
Whoa.
Philadelphia Flyers. 5 out of their 6 wins so far this year, they've won by 2 goals. So take the puck line at plus 102. You're getting great odds. They haven't lost a game yet, and I don't think they will on Tuesday night against the Philadelphia Flyers. But my actual second pick, I'm going to that Bruins Blackhawks game. I'm going to take the under 6.5 at -132. So
Yeah.
far, the Bruins, every single game has been under the number. They've already
I
faced
like
the
this.
Blackhawks. They won 3-1. So I'm going to take the Bruins and Blackhawks under 6.5 at -132. And if you don't mind, I'll just mention my lock of the night,
Please.
which is by far my favorite pick. So I really, really, really hope this hits because I would love to see it hit. Stars and Penguins under 6.5 at -124.
Yes.
9 out of the last 10 games have been under the number,
Oh.
while 7 of those 9 games have actually been under 5.5 goals. So at under 6.5 at -124, same game, or not same game, parlay these 3 picks together. I really like all 3 of them, but the trend, the track record between these 2 clubs, and so far what I've seen from Dallas, they've been struggling to score goals, but they're winning games. Take the under 6.5.
I like your angles here, Steele. Also, just to go back to the Boston Bruins, what is it with this team just looking like an almost carbon copy repeat of themselves every single night?
Yeah.
Open the season with a 3-1 victory, then a 3-2 victory, then a 3-1 victory. Then last night, guess what? 3-1.
Yeah.
There's something going on in Boston, and I'm not exactly loving it, but if you're a Bruins fan, you are loving those bets, Steele. I wanted to do a same game parlay here for this Devils game. I wanted to do the Devils over. I wanted to do Jack Hughes anytime goal, and I wanted to do my lock of the night, Devils on the money line. I know they're a little bit banged up, but coming into Montreal on the road, playing them on the second night of a back-to-back, this Montreal team just doesn't have it yet, and the Devils do. They're starting to get a little bit more out of Timo Meier. Tyler Toffoli, who struggled a little bit. He got his first goal of the year the other night. He's coming around a little bit slowly. I like the angle. Also, in their last 10 games, points in 8 of 10 against the Montreal Canadiens for the New Jersey Devils. So give me the Devils on the money line, -220, not a big odd, so add it into a parlay. But I really, really do like the Devils tonight against a Montreal team that, sure, they're a bit better than last year, but not by much. Kirby Dach's injury obviously hurts their depth up the middle, which they don't have a ton of. So let's go with the Devils on the money line, a much better club.
And taking the other team, or the Montreal Canadiens coming on the second of a back-to-back as well. That is also in the favor of the New Jersey Devils, even if they are on the road. Nonetheless, New Jersey Devils money line is Flip's lock of the night. Stars Penguins under 6.5 is my lock of the night. We're going to post all of these before game time, an hour before. So be sure to check Twitter for that graphic of all 3 of our picks, plus the lock of the night. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time is when you can find all of our episodes. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.